To understand the vulnerabilities within the United States election infrastructure, we first have to look at the macro-level threat. Today, multiple foreign intelligence apparatuses actively possess the coordinated capability to compromise these systems. This National Intelligence Council memorandum explicitly judges that adversaries, including Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea, can compromise U.S. election infrastructure. Below, the assessment notes they primarily target centralized data repositories, including voter registration databases, poll books, and official election websites. The infrastructure has been probed before. During the 2016 cycle, Russian intelligence reconnoitered state election networks, successfully accessing infrastructure in multiple states and exfiltrating voter data from at least one. The underlying issue is architectural. Centralized portals must remain internet-connected to ensure continuous public accessibility, which inherently provides the widest and most easily located points of entry for state-sponsored actors. The system relies on physical access points, like local ballot drop boxes and precinct check-in stations, that continuously interface with these centralized state databases. Returning to the intelligence memorandum, the text indicates specific consequences. Adversaries gaining access could disrupt the voting process or steal sensitive voter data. Furthermore, the Council assesses these actors have the capability to potentially manipulate data in election-related systems. Because these systems rely on easily accessible web portals to update voter records and report information, they present a clear vector for malicious cyber activities. By specifically targeting these centralized data nodes, adversaries do not necessarily need to change vote tallies to succeed. Compromising a registration database or taking an official website offline systematically undermines public confidence in the integrity of the election process. Moving down from the federal level, we have to examine the localized networks where these elections actually take place. Between 2019 and 2024, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, evaluated these state, local, tribal, and territorial systems. Their reports reveal a core structural flaw. Election hardware vendors build their threat models under the assumption that their systems will operate on strictly isolated, air-gapped networks. In reality, that theoretical isolation rarely exists. Local jurisdictions frequently deploy flat or minimally segmented network architectures. As this diagram illustrates, a flat network creates a direct pathway between standard enterprise zones, like an employee email server, and the protected election infrastructure. These theoretical boundaries vanish in standard deployments. Critical election assets are routinely exposed to municipal network traffic and the vulnerabilities that come with it. Once inside these localized environments, adversaries rely on lateral movement. An intrusion often begins at a low-level access point. From there, weak identity management, shared credentials, and legacy operating systems allow an attacker to bypass internal security checkpoints and navigate directly to high-value targets. This exact vulnerability has already been exploited by non-state actors. In April 2020, unidentified actors used ransomware to compromise the computers of a Virginia county administrator and vote registrar. The perimeter threat also extends to third-party vendors. The processes of creating electronic ballots and configuring voting machines are susceptible to insider threats before the hardware is even distributed to polling places. Mundane IT hygiene failures, unpatched software, and supply chain vulnerabilities pose a structural risk to election integrity that rivals the threat of targeted foreign cyber attacks. Down at the precinct level, the network layer gives way to physical hardware. This is where voters interact directly with electronic machines inside the polling station. The equipment used in these locations is subject to narrow certification cycles. However, physical voting hardware and localized software retain exploitable vulnerabilities that cannot be patched rapidly enough to counter new threats. At the 2019 DEF CON Cybersecurity Conference, independent researchers successfully compromised more than 100 voting machines, all of which had been certified for use in at least one U.S. voting jurisdiction. The accompanying intelligence report highlights a specific verified exploit event, showing an electronic poll book that was physically reprogrammed to run the video game Doom. Another physical vulnerability involves systems like the ImageCast-X ballot marking devices. These machines print a paper ballot for the voter to see, but they encode the actual tabulated vote in a barcode. Researchers demonstrated that the data encoded in this unverified, easily alterable barcode could be changed without even requiring physical access to the machine. Systemic reliance on outdated and fragmented certification cycles means that the approved hardware on the floor cannot definitively guarantee the integrity of the data it records. After the polls close and the votes are tabulated, local precincts transmit their preliminary results to public-facing websites. A Blue Ribbon Commission studying Pennsylvania's election infrastructure found that this specific transmission phase is vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks. In this scenario, an attacker manipulates the data while it is in transit. Even if the official, separately stored certified copies remain secure offline, altering the preliminary results displayed to the public creates immediate uncertainty. The transmission risks are expanded further by state policies. Currently, 31 states and the District of Columbia allow eligible voters to submit absentee ballots via the internet or fax. Because software flaws and network vulnerabilities remain systemically unpatchable during rapid election cycles, digital security alone is insufficient. Rigorous paper-based voting records and mandatory post-election manual audits provide the only definitive guarantee of electoral integrity.